Welcome back. You're watching Scope. I'm Waqar Rizvi. In this segment, we're going to discuss our other issue for this show, and that comes out of Indian-occupied Kashmir, where the governor has dissolved the local legislative assembly. He says opposition parties who jointly proposed the formation of the state government could not form a responsive government. What does this say about the BJP's desire to remain in power, especially in such a sensitive region? We're going to discuss this further with our esteemed guest who is joining us live now from Srinagar, Wasim Khalid. Wasim, thank you for joining us. Wasim is a journalist. Wasim, what do you make of the situation currently with the Legislative Assembly dissolved?
Hung to power. So that's why they were playing games. So what has actually happened, if we have to go into the past to understand this whole issue.
Okay.
First of all, the BJP broke away with its coalition partner, People's Democratic Party, on June 16. The reason put forward was given that that BJP and PDP were diametrically opposite and their political interests were clashing with each other. When BJP wanted certain issues like abrogation of special status of Kashmir in the Indian Constitution, which is called Article 370, and also the 35A, which guarantees the special status of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So they had both of them have issues on that very particular subject, and there were other issues like law and order and the rising insurgency in Kashmir. So they broke away. So when they broke away, the government fell and the governor rule was imposed in Kashmir. So it was, the assembly was in suspended animation.
Yeah.
It was kept in the suspended animation, and the regional political parties like National Conference and People's Democratic Party were asking the governor to dissolve the assembly.
Yeah.
But he was not doing so because he was cherry-picked by the BJP and installed here as a governor. So the great point was that he is a proxy of BJP, not as an ideal governor who will be working in the interest of the state. So what happened later, there was a consistent effort by the BJP to prop up defection within the regional parties, so that the rebel candidates will join them and they will form the government, and their interests of like abrogating 370 or the issues like 35A or dealing with the rebel groups here and the rising tide of people's protest. So there were a lot of issues which were coming in, but the basic, the recent development took place when the regional parties thought that their own existence is at stake. So they thought that they need to act. So they came together and went to the governor, who is actually, as I told you, that BJP cherry-picked man. They told him that we are in the majority. So we will form the government, but like, as you know, what unfolded later, the drama which unfolded later, and he straightforwardly dissolved the assembly and gave no complete reason.
So do you think, Wasim, if I may come in, do you think, Wasim, that this tactic of the BJP, will it work in its favor? Because at some point in time, there need to be elections. So will the BJP garner more support through any future elections in this state?
No, BJP was making some inroads into the Kashmir Valley, which is very, very quite shocking as well as quite interesting, because they were aligning with some elements who are like the former who returned pro-Indian politician Sajjad Loan and others. They were trying to prop up a kind of government, and in the recently concluded elections, urban bodies elections, which were boycotted by the people. So they made inroads. Their men have been selected. The mayor, which Srinagar had just got, like he just got the 40 votes. He were installed. So they were making inroads. But now the problem was that those very parties, the regional parties like PDP and the National Conference, whose very existence was at stake, even though they have been, they have no government gets installed here without the blessing of Delhi. But like now they felt that their own interest and stakes were political interest and their own existence was at stake. So the time has come. They thought that if they will not act, they will be their existence will be their existence will be nowhere. So that's why they acted. But as far as the BJP, if you say that how you will make out of this, it can run both ways. First, like the National Conference and the PDP, they have stopped defections. Now there is nothing for BJP to sell to their legislators because, technically speaking, legally speaking, the assembly has been dissolved and it's like they have to contest the new elections. So the defections which were being orchestrated by the BJP and its allies, so it has put a full stop there.
So what are the people feeling at this point? Because you're on the ground there, Wasim. So I'm wondering, what are people around you saying specifically about the situation? Will they buy whatever tactics and whatever moves the BJP and the governor are playing out? And do they even trust the opposition parties in this case?
Actually, the pro-Indian politicians, you have to understand, it's not like a normal place where things do happen on their own. I mean, it's always, there is always invisible hands behind, any of the government which comes into light. The recent example is of a People's Democratic Party who fought against the very BJP and then it ended up joining hands with the same BJP. So it's not that black and white as from the distance, it might seem for you that it's such a black and white thing that this will happen and this is law and this is legal. Such things do not happen. On the other hand, you have to understand the bigger politics of BJP and their pan-India politics. You have to understand that, and you have to understand how Kashmir plays a vital role in that. And you have to understand you have to read their manifesto where they openly speak. Out of the many issues, the basic issue for them is abrogating this Article 370, which will ultimately lead to the demographic change because right now we are protected by the special laws, which were enacted by the Maharaja, not by this government.
Right.
So it's just a continuity of that law. Yeah, it was in 1928. So we somehow we hear people feel really threatened out of that. And on the other hand, the BJP has a different game plan. They have a pan-India game plan, and their whole politics hinges upon mostly on anti-Muslim or anti-Kashmir narrative.
Yeah.
Anti-Kashmiri interest, political interest narrative. So looking from that prism, it might have dented their somehow it might have dented their political ambitions like abrogation or spatial status.
Yeah.
And if you see that recently when these three diametrically opposite political parties, when they came and joined hands, they too said that they wanted to protect this spatial status. So it's a very, very sensitive issue here in Kashmir because they think if they turn into minority, and there were quite a bit, lot of suspicion about that thing, and people are really concerned about that thing. So somehow it has been checkmated, but it is yet to be seen what will be the next move. As far as BJP is concerned, BJP might hamper their foothold. They want to the kind of foothold they wanted in this place. They might not get it.
So, you know, Wasim, when we're speaking about that region, Wasim, I apologize for coming in, but I wanted to ask you this. When we're speaking about the region that we're speaking of specifically, there are always concerns about instability, aren't there? So if there is such political instability, what does that mean then on the streets, on the roads, as far as human rights concerns come into play?
Yeah, I mean, even though the pro-Indian politics does not enjoy that much of legitimacy in Kashmir, it might act as a crisis managers for New Delhi. But like, as far as human rights is concerned, they can act as like that springboard at certain level where, they can moderate kind of, they can act as moderators, but really speaking, I mean, if you want my honest analysis or honest confession on this,
Yes.
they do not matter. They do not matter in that, like they do not matter as such, which will be that states will be impacted by their coming and going and governor rule or no governor rule. But yes, people reach out to them and they have these day-to-day issues like electricity and water, and it's also true that their role has been reduced to the municipal corporation. That if you need electricity, you need road, you need drainage, and then people go and approach them. Otherwise, if you see locally in a bigger politics, in law and order, I mean, which quote unquote say law and order and controlling people,
Yeah.
I don't think so. They do count that. I mean, they don't count. I don't think so. They count in that.
So, you know,
they can play a very wide.
Right. Wasim, you know, India is always spoken of in international media and international community as the world's largest democracy. So when we're talking about this situation right now vis-a-vis this legislative assembly, obviously many people, even in India, are talking about this being an illegal move, an undemocratic move. What do you say about that?
Yeah, if you see from that perspective, from the Indian perspective, from the Indian liberal perspective, which has been dishonest to Kashmir, I might admit, like, if you see the history of Kashmir, it has not happened in the first time. Since there are disparate groups as well as the major political party like Congress, their interests have converged because of the rise of the BJP. So they might see it's undemocratic. But if you see the first Prime Minister of Kashmir, Sheikh Abdullah, he was put for 22 years in jail when he called for plebiscite. And then the Delhi has been installing and dethroning the government. It has not happened the first time. So even if you go into the root cause of the armed insurgency in 1988, the same thing happened. So the government, the Delhi, what they did, they didn't want that Muslim United Front, which called for plebiscite of Kashmir to come into power because they were winning the election. So they installed their own government of national conference and Congress-led government.
Yeah.
So it has not happened in the first time. But like, as you said, like right now there is a cutthroat competition going on in Delhi, and now they're blowing it like as sky has fallen. People are not shocked. But it also proves one thing, that how democracy plays in a place like Kashmir. It has been reduced to a butt of jokes.
Right. So I mean, I want to ask then, you know, let's talk about politicians then. Let's talk about the opposition parties for a moment. You know, Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah and all these other politicians, do you think any of them provide any more hope for the people?
Hope in what respect?
Hope when it comes to human rights concerns being addressed, hope for their own voices to be heard, because as you correctly said, the human rights issue doesn't come up that much in conversation, doesn't really have as much importance in many politicians' minds. But I'm wondering, do any of these politicians, be it Mufti or Abdullah or anybody else, do they really care about what the Kashmiri people themselves want?
If they would have cared about, first of all, they would have rebelled against the thing what is happening. I mean, the first agitation, which is called the Kashmiri Intifada, it happened in like the major agitation in 2010, where thousands and tens and thousands of people would hit the streets and they will call for freedom.
Yeah.
And there was a firing of police on the protesters, and then pellet guns were introduced under the very nose of Umar Abdullah. So if he would have been that much conscious, or he might be that pro people, he would have come and talked about that. He didn't. Same happened with Mehbooba Mufti. Under her very nose, the 2016, after the killing of the Burhan Wani, things happened, and nothing of that sort happened, anything. But I will tell you one thing, that this is the recent dissolution was the outcome of that, because their own political existence or whatever existence they have, or where from they were drawing their own legitimacy, it was it was endangered. That's why it brought these disparate groups and put them in one together, and they went to the government and called for the formation of the, because they wanted to stop BJP from decimating them. So this is what was happening. So if you see properly as a human rights and they talk about human, it might be an aberration, not openly, it might be an aberration. I don't think so they do matter in the security matter when it comes to security matters. Yeah, I don't think so. But when it, please.
So I'm wondering, how do Indians feel about this, whom you may speak to, or how does Indian media speak about this issue? Because certainly this is still concerning for a country like India, where they say at least that there is democracy, where they say at least that they respect human rights, etc. Why would they not care, or why would Indian media or others not talk about the fact that Kashmiris' human rights and Kashmiris' voices should be respected and heard?
That thing is to be that thing you have to go back into the history and you have to see the dishonest role played by the Indian liberals and the Indian leftists. When the Congress was doing the same thing, they never spoke a word about that. And now when it comes to bite them back, what was happening, this fascism which was being unleashed in Kashmir, now they are paying the price for that very thing. They might be screaming and they might be browbeating and they might be complaining, but the thing is that it is that very silence, that thoughtful silence, that criminal silence they attained, and they are paying the price for that right now. As far as the democracy is concerned, it has not crossed the borders of the Kashmir. It has always been they have always been used as a crisis managers more of and as an extension of the municipal corporation, nothing more than that. When we talk about human rights, you take out the reports from the Indian media and you see how many human rights reports they have carried out. And why there is actually a clash going on between the right wing and the centrist and the leftist who represent the opposing political thoughts in Delhi. That's why they are now scoring points on Kashmir. As far as Kashmir is concerned, yes, to somehow when these local political parties come, there is somehow that they come under pressure when things like abrogation of Article 370 and the things work, and they are put into pressure, and they can act as some kind of wall in between that, they provide some kind of insulation, but that's very superficial and meek. So it's not that powerful.
I'm wondering, Wasim, if I may come in here, I wanted to ask you what you think about the international community and its response to such affairs within Kashmir, because it's interesting. The OIC, the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, as you well know, has condemned human rights violations in occupied Kashmir, and this happened on the 13th of November this year. I'm wondering, does that kind of pressure change anything that India does towards the Kashmiri peoples, or does India not really care?
It's very interesting that the Indians do have concern about the international organization as well as the international pressure and their image their soft image in the international media as well as the international arena. But the basic thing is that where is the Kashmir narrative actually? That is like the Kashmiri people are now making it, the Kashmiri journalists who are coming out. But as far as you represent from Pakistan, what Pakistani media is doing, like today 6 people were killed, yesterday a political activist were killed, day before 5 more people were killed. It's not that we are too blind to see, because we get Pakistani channels here. We also see how the prioritization of the news, where you put like the Pakistani channels put like 18th priority, like in their it's the 18th item which comes out as a passing remark, and more than that we see Bollywood. It makes a joke of our. So even if Pakistan is one of the parties to this conflict, it has not been able to generate a kind of narrative or generate a kind of public narrative, at least in the media. On the other hand, you see what's happening in India and how there is a correlation between the powerful Delhi media as well as their government when it comes to Kashmir. So they are churning out the narratives which suits for them. As far as the Pakistani or the Kashmiris are, in whatever way they are telling their story, the Pakistani media, I mean, or the narrative which should be built around Kashmir, it's nowhere. I mean, I'm sorry to say. As far as now the international this thing is concerned, recently this year, the United Nations Human Rights Commission has issued a report. It has its impact. Things have it does not mean that they are not they are unmoved by things. People get moved by things, but when they come in the public, when they do not, and they are used, and Kashmir issue is used just as a passing remark, nothing will happen.
You know, you mentioned Pakistan, yeah. Wasim, and I wanted to come to that point because you brought it up. You know, Pakistan has always said that it wants a resolution to this issue. Of course, it wants the rights of the Kashmiri peoples to be respected, et cetera, for them to have their own decision-making power, really. You know, why have we not seen India take a step towards such a resolution once and for all? Because, you know, this has been such a long-standing issue. Why have we not seen the political will on the part of Modi or even previous governments to take a step towards giving the Kashmiri people their own voice?
Oh, there were issues like there were times when there were serious moves like and then you have to go back to 9/11 and then before 9/11, and then you see the Indians used to. I have read a lot of articles, and during my research I was doing, I read a lot of articles how Indians were used to go and approach the Pakistani authorities that they want to talk. So after 9/11, the Indians think that things are going on. Why they need to listen to Pakistan when the whole world is after them? So there might be one thing, that might be the one major thing that might be coming into play. But now as things are changing and regionally, like this dialogue which is going on in the Pakistani neighbor in Afghanistan, that this might lead to change in the Indian thinking, because Americans who once regarded Taliban as their foes, now they are talking to them. This might have some kind of impact on Kashmir as far as the talks are concerned in the future. But this brings us back to the point, what happened in Pakistani civil society and Pakistani media, and why they failed to generate a political narrative which could have led to the conflict resolution of this place. This is not happening. I mean, everything is before you. So we feel that Pakistani civil society and Pakistani media have failed to create absolutely failed to even persuade the international bodies and the international diplomatic arenas to focus on Kashmir, which earlier was before 9/11.
All right, I wanted to thank Wasim Khalid now, who is joining us live from Srinagar, a journalist who is sharing his thoughts with us on this important issue of the Legislative Assembly in Kashmir being dissolved by the governor. We'll have to see if there are going to be elections there, of course. He mentioned something about the Pakistani role. Pakistan has always said that its role in all of this is to call out human rights violations as they occur, has called for the Kashmiri people's own voice to be heard by the international community. Pakistan continues to bring this up, of course, in a variety of international bodies. We'll, of course, have to wait and see how all of this internal politics in India, of course, plays out and how this affects the Kashmiri people and, of course, their concerns going forward. We'll leave it there for today. Thank you very much for watching Scope. I've been Waqar Rizvi.